This is Liza Ashley. She cooked on plantations, through integration in Little Rock, and for the Clintons when Bill was governor. She even made greens and cornbread for Colonel Sanders. Her food is the inspiration for this luncheon. Are you getting hungry? Ready or not, it's Family Meal. Welcome to Family Meal, where we enjoy memory-making meals with a splash of wine. We've got 4 dishes and 7 wine pairings today. Let's go! The first course for today is a cheddar cheese and sour cream dip with ginger fennel chutney. You'll need 16 ounces or 2 cups of cream cheese, green onion tops, 3 cups of shredded sharp cheddar, 1 cup of regular cheddar, 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 garlic cloves, and 1 tablespoon of ground mustard. You'll mix the wet ingredients and the spices into the cream cheese until everything is well combined. For the chutney, we'll need 2 bulbs of finely sliced fennel with the stalks and the core removed, 1 tablespoon of finely grated fresh ginger, half a large onion, a teaspoon of fresh fennel seed, 2 or 3 cups of water, half a cup of beer, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and 1/8 of an ounce of gelatin. Start by toasting the fennel seeds for approximately 5 minutes until they're brown. Then we'll saute the onions and cook them in oil until they're caramelized. That should take about 10 minutes. Next, we'll add the fennel seeds and ginger and cook them on medium heat for 10 minutes. We'll cook that for about an hour at high heat, uncovered and stirring it occasionally. We'll add as much water as we need until the vegetables have the consistency of sun-dried tomatoes. Finally, we add the vinegar and the gelatin. And now we just have to put the chutney on top of the cheese mixture. Serve it hot, and we're done. Our first wines are the Bougrier Sparkling Vouvray and the Domaine de Vaudenice Vouvray Pétillant Brut, both from France. A Vouvray is a Chenin Blanc from the Vouvray region of the Loire Valley. The weather here can be vastly different every year, and so are the wines. In hot years, they make sweet wines. In really cool years, they make sparkling wines like these. The Bougrier Sparkling Vouvray is a bubbly gold-colored wine with subtle touches of apples, pear, honey, apricot, orange peel, and flowers. It's also dry and has a nice creamy texture, which goes great with cheese. The Domaine Vaudenice is a perfumed white wine with flavors of citrus and ripe green apple. There's also some toastiness in this wine. These bubbly wines are perfect for a light lunch. The second course today is this cheesy crab tart. With any tart, you've got to start with a good crust. You can see my go-to crust recipe here, or you can use a store-bought shell. In addition to that, we'll need half a cup of chopped leek, 1 tablespoon of butter, 3 eggs, 2 cups of cream, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 chopped sprigs of tarragon, half a pound of Gruyere, a dash of nutmeg, a quarter of a red pepper, and 6.5 pounds of crab meat. The first step will be sauteing the onion in butter for about 5 minutes, or until they're translucent. Now set that aside. Next, mix the eggs, cream, salt, cheese, and nutmeg. Then we add the onions and the crab. We pour all of that into the pie shell and bake it at 450 degrees. After 10 minutes, we reduce the heat to 325 and cook it for another 20 to 25 minutes. That should cook it through. This is what it looks like when it's done. Doesn't that look like something good to eat? Our second wine selections are Camino, Roca, Alcheri, Chocolí 2020 from Spain, and Nicolás Ulesia y Hijos Chocolina 2020, also from Spain. I'd never had these wines and wanted to try them. They're from Spain's North Country, near Bilbao. They're known to be minerally and a bit saline, which makes them great with food from the sea. They're also high acid and slightly fizzy, which is great with a lighter dish. The Camino Roca matches that description perfectly for a chocolate. It has fruity flavor notes like grapefruit, and it has spring flowers in the nose. Ulesia y Hijos is from a family-owned vineyard and has notes of tropical fruits and citrus fruits. They only make 6,000 cases a year, so it's interesting that I was able to get my hands on some. Steak salad is a popular dish these days, but this version is much better than you'd get at your local chain restaurant. You'll see why in a second. We'll need 2 pounds of boneless sirloin, half a cup of butter, 3/4 of a pound of sliced mushrooms, half a round of farmer's cheese, a few artichoke hearts, 1 cup of diced celery, 1 pint of cherry tomatoes, 2 tablespoons of parsley, 2 cups of Italian salad dressing, or you can make your own, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and salt and pepper to taste. First, we'll brown the meat in a large skillet over high heat until it's brown on all sides. Then we put it in a bowl so that it cools. We want the inside to still be rare or medium. While the steak cools, we can get our vegetables together. For example, chop the tomatoes in half and dice the parsley. Next, we'll saute the mushrooms and croutons to get them brown. Now it's time to plate. Add all of the vegetables, the artichoke hearts, the parsley, the celery, the tomatoes, the chives. Put it on a plate in a nice way. Now we mix our dressing with some mustard and pour it over the salad. You can toss it, or you can pour it over like I'm doing in the video. We'll be having this salad with 2 lambruscos. Some of you might be saying, what, lambrusco? I drank that back in the day. Well, for me, a light salad with a rare steak is a great dish to enjoy with this wine. It's fresh and bubbly, but it's a red, so it can stand up to the red meat. But serve them chilled so you can get the best out of them. The Grasparosa Lambrusco is the specific name of the grape used in this wine. Wine from this grape is usually quite tannic and is described as meaty, which is great with a steak salad, right? This one is fresh when chilled, but also has flavors of leather and ripe mulberries. If you like blackberry liqueur like Kirsch, you'll enjoy this leany 910 Lambrusco. It's also rich with flavors like leather, but the fruit flavors are fresher than the Grasparosa. Were you waiting for dessert? Here it is. Stuffed candied orange peels. They're warm, a bit syrupy, and give off a tropical vibe. To make the candied orange peels, we'll need 6 large oranges, 4 cups of water, 4 cups of sugar, and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. First, we'll cut the oranges in half and remove the flesh. Then we'll put the peels in water and let them boil for 3 minutes. Then we'll let them cool and repeat the boiling process for 8 more minutes. When the skin is cooling again, we'll put in the sugar, cream of tartar, and water in a pot. Then we'll put the orange peels inside the pot again with the sugar syrup and let it boil until it's clear for about 15 minutes. For the puree, we'll need some yams, a little bit of olive oil, some butter, heavy cream, milk, and sugar. And we'll use the juice of the oranges from before and some lemon juice. We'll peel and dice the yams and cover them in olive oil and salt. Cook them in the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes until they're tender. Then we'll make a puree with all the ingredients until it's all well mixed. This is the final step, toasting the coconut. You can do this in a dry skillet, but you have to watch it or it'll burn. Now we can plate. Add a bit of puree to each orange cup. Top that with a bit of toasted coconut. I also added some pineapple that was soaked in booze as the final touch. You could serve these hot or cold, but I think they're better just warm. Would you get into those? I don't know if you noticed, but all of the wines so far this month were sparklers, so we're finishing with a fizzy Moscato. Sweet Moscatos are super popular and easy to drink, especially chilled. But to be honest, this is how I like to use them, with a fun dessert. This one is Burton Vineyards Metal Label Moscato Frizzante 2020 from Australia. This wine has tiny bubbles and notes of orange blossom and white peach, flavors which will be perfect with the candied orange peel. See how that worked out? Liza Ashley was born in 1917 on a plantation in Arkansas. Her grandmother was the head cook there, which is what exposed her to the craft. After her grandmother died, she became the head cook there. After she got married, she moved to Little Rock where she worked as a maid and a cook. In 1954, she started working at the Arkansas governor's mansion as a maid. But on the cook's days off, she would step in and cook. This was in the mid-50s. She stayed as the head cook until 1990, when Bill Clinton finished his term as governor of Arkansas. She and her friend Carolyn Huber put together her book, 30 Years at the Mansion, in 1985, where she recalls how she started serving at the mansion as a maid, and then took the opportunity to become the executive chef. She cooked for Barbara Bush, Gregory Peck, Rosalind Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife, and many other dignitaries while there. That's how I learned about this amazing food. They reprinted the book after Clinton became president. All of the recipes in the book are hers, but people in the house could choose what they wanted to eat from her recipes. People really loved her pound cake, chocolate chip cookies, but personally, she liked her greens and her peas. These recipes would be delicious even if she wasn't cooking for VIPs. It's not the famous people that make the food worthy. It was delicious when me and my regular friends ate it too. It'll be delicious if you cook it, and you definitely should. In our next episode, we'll be talking about the Kentucky Cookbook. It's the first cookbook in the U.S. with the mac and cheese recipe. See you next time.